Let's talk about shifting your state of being, why it's important, and why it might not have been working for you to shift into a new state of being or a new state of consciousness without going back and forth. Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Lorena. I am a self-concept coach and I support women to shift their self-concept, shift their state of being, step into a new embodiment, a new identity, and with that manifest anything that they desire in life. Please leave me a little like if you like this video, and if you want more, then make sure you subscribe, switch on notifications because I do upload videos every week and I don't want you to miss out. And I also invite you to check out the description box below because you can find links to a bunch of free resources there, from free masterclasses to guidebooks, lots of resources that will get you started on your journey of transforming your self-concept and manifesting the reality of your dreams. Today's video is really exciting because it's all about states. Talking about states of being and how to change your state of being was actually one of the very first videos I made when I started my YouTube channel, but it's very outdated because it doesn't take into account all the little intricacies of how unique we all are, and it's a very basic overview, and I was baby Lorena back then. So now I have a lot more wisdom, I have embodied a lot more, I have manifested a lot more, I have transformed significantly over the years. If you look back at that old video, you will see that. Not just externally, but just how I hold myself and how confident I am. All of that has changed. And I've also had the pleasure and the honor to work with so many women all over the world and support them in shifting their state and stepping into a new self-concept, and doing so very sustainably. So I really do see myself as sort of an expert. I'm never done learning, but I have a lot of experience with this and I live and breathe this work. So I felt like it was time for an update. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about what your state of being is, how it influences your reality, how to change your state of being, and also why it probably feels hard for you. Because honestly, it is hard. If you do it in a way where you step into a reality and into an embodiment that's radically different from where you are now, it's not easy, it's not a quick fix, and I want to speak to that because a lot of people make it out to be very simple, and whilst it is conceptually very simple, in practice there are challenges that you come up against. So I'll share with you what common techniques and tools you have. So you do get a few tools and techniques here, but you will also get an introduction as to how you can change your state really long term, so you don't go back and forth and you don't feel like you keep hitting a wall. Let's start by addressing what your state of being even is. So your state of being is also your state of consciousness, which means it's how your consciousness inhabits your body and your being in this very moment. This means that your state is not stagnant, it fluctuates over time, and it's influenced by internal belief systems, past experience, but also events that are unfolding and that you are naturally reacting to. So you can wake up in one state and go to sleep in another. But what is really important is that your state of being includes different components such as your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors, your triggers, the things that activate you, the things that you react to, all in one. So it's almost hard to grasp because of how comprehensive it is and how much it includes. And when you're in it, it's really hard to look outside of it and gain a new perspective. To give you an example, maybe when you're in a very relaxed state and you feel very at peace, then somebody can really provoke you and it doesn't really mess with you, it doesn't really bother you. Whereas when you're already activated and you already feel a bit antsy, then something really small can happen, like you spill a glass of water and you flip out. So how you look at your reality from one state of being is very different from, or can be very different compared to how you look at your reality from another state of being. One circumstance can be interpreted in different ways, and that happens automatically through the state that you're in the moment. So for example, if you're looking forward to meeting a friend and they cancel on you last minute, you may feel very activated in the moment. You may even make it mean something about yourself. And then hours later, when you're more relaxed, you're like, oh, actually, it's not even a big deal. And I'm quite glad to have some me time and some time for myself. So that's one circumstance that can have a very different weight just a few hours later. And that is based on your reaction and your state, essentially, because your reactions are included in your state of being as well. Now, your perception of your circumstances are included in your state, but it's not the same. So your perceptions are part of your state of being, but your state of being does not equal the perceptions that you have. Often people try to micromanage the little things. So they try to change their thoughts or their feelings or their perception or their behaviors. And all of that requires conscious effort. You keeping your thoughts in check or watching your perception takes conscious effort, whereas your state of being already includes these reactions, perceptions, thoughts, feelings, assumptions, beliefs. Now, what does this mean? This means that when you change your state of being, you change everything else along with it. You don't have to control your thoughts or your emotions or your assumptions or your beliefs. Your state has all of that included. Now, I'm sure you can already see how that could benefit you to have some control over the state you inhabit and how that impacts how you show up in the world. And that doesn't only impact how you feel, but it also impacts what you experience. Because here's where it gets interesting. And I want to give a caveat here to say that I firmly believe that working on your state of being and working on your self-concept is much more important than actively and consciously manifesting the reality that you desire. And that's because, let's say you're in a state of being where you are ungrateful, you can't appreciate what you have, you're just in a state of discontentment or somehow unaligned. You can be living the life that you've always dreamt of, and you will not be able to enjoy it, and often you will not be able to sustain that life. Your state is a lot more important than the external circumstances. And at the same time, the reality around you is a direct reflection of your state of being. So that means if you keep repeating the same patterns, there's a very good chance that you have something to do with that pattern, because the common denominator is you. For example, if you always find yourself in relationship dynamics where you get abandoned, then you're likely in a state of being where you're expecting abandonment, even if that is unconsciously. Most of the time it's unconsciously. So basically, you are most likely in a state of feeling abandoned or fearing abandonment before it happens. And that state then automatically includes perceptions and interpretations of circumstances that are conducive to experiencing abandonment. So, if you want to change your reality, either because you want to change or break some patterns, or because you simply want more for yourself than you currently have, which is something that you can achieve and that you do deserve, or if you want to manifest something very specific that is just a desire that you have in your heart, that your heart is yearning for, the most important thing that you can do is to work on shifting your state of being. Because once you prioritize your internal state, your external reality will begin to shift. Now we're going to get into the how, and we're also going to get into the how not to do it. If you have been on a manifestation journey for some time, or you're new to this and you just watch some random YouTube videos that give you little techniques with how you can shift your state, or you've been doing some meditations, you will likely notice that you feel pretty good whilst you do the meditation or whilst you imagine the reality that you want to experience. But the moment you're in real life, the moment you're confronted with triggers and circumstances and things that come up, you're back in the old. You're back in the old state of being and you haven't actually shifted states. And that's what a lot of people experience, and that's what I used to experience before I cracked the code, before I actually deeply transformed within myself. Because the way it's commonly taught to shift your state of being is incredibly limited. And this is actually inspired by something that one of my clients told me, who had past experience with other coaches. And I hear this a lot, that people say, well, I hired a coach and all they told me was to shift my state. Or they would give them list of affirmations or meditations or some techniques to do that you can Google online. Now, just shift your state isn't helpful advice. Because if you have never done it intentionally, consciously, and successfully, if you have never truly shifted your state long term, then you don't even know on an embodied level what that means. You can understand conceptually what it means to shift your state, right? Everything that I told you in the beginning of this video, that gives you a conceptual, intellectual idea of what it means to be in a different state of being. But in order to understand how to do it, you need to experience it. You need to go through that process of shifting your state. So you need to be shown how to shift your state rather than just explained how to do it or just told to do it in the first place. So if you read all the books in the world and you watched all the videos on YouTube, that doesn't mean you experientially know how to shift your state of being. And when somebody tells you to just shift your state, that doesn't show you or teach you how to do it. And because there's so many mixed and confusing messages out there about manifestation, especially the bigger the internet gets, the more messages are out there, you can get a bit lost in it all. And then when you do get little tips and tricks and techniques, it's often very surface level. And that is primarily because through an Instagram post or a YouTube video, there's only so much you can bring across. I can tell you things, and that's why I make these videos for you, so that you have a starting point and that you have a direction to go into and that you have an idea of how to do it. But without actually actively coaching you through it, there's a limitation. There's only so much I can give you through a video on YouTube. So what it leads to when you have just some information or you are just told to shift your state without being shown how to do it, you're going to begin to micromanage your state. So you might be hyper aware of it all of the time. You might be going back and forth trying to stay in a certain state of being, but then life happens and you get taken out of it. You might have this scenario where you feel like you are in a new state of being when you do a meditation or when you do a certain practice, but the moment you're back in daily life, you're out of it. And I also want to make clear, all of this does not mean that you have to be in the exact same state of being all of the time, and otherwise what you want won't manifest. In fact, it's not normal to be in the same state of being all of the time. When I get activated by something, when I run into my ex, or when I experience a death of someone I love, of course I'm gonna be in a different state, and that's okay. But when you're intentionally working on embodying a state of being that aligns with a new reality, a desired reality, and you do that deliberately, but you keep going back and forth, then there's a shift that has not happened. That is not normal. You do want to end up in a place where your new normal state of being, the state that is most natural for you, shifts. And all of this is, by the way, the reason I don't really give a list of techniques over YouTube. I can do that, and I do obviously give you tools and practices and techniques, but when I do that, I am very clear about the fact that these techniques won't give you the shift you are looking for, because the truth is, it's only when this shift in your state and in your self-concept is deeply embodied in your system and it becomes your new normal that you truly transformed and that you will not go back and forth anymore. And when I say embodied, I mean integrated and embodied. And essentially what that means is that it becomes automatic. It means that you don't need to think about what state am I in. You're not doubting. You're not having to manage or control your state of being. You're not worrying about the thoughts that you're having. You're not trying to control your assumptions or your emotions. It has become your new natural state of being. Now I'm going to say something very important that a lot of people need to hear. And that is that saying that you are in a certain state of being, or telling yourself that you are, does not mean that you are in that state. Because the state of being you are in is a felt and embodied experience in your system and in your body, and you will not need to convince yourself of it or try to make yourself believe that you are in whatever state you want to be in. For example, if I now tell you that I own 10 properties in London, which I don't and have no desire to, that is me saying that out loud, and I'm lying to you then, because that's not what the truth is. And I'm also not feeling it to be true. Me telling you that is the equivalent of you telling yourself the same lie. If you tell yourself that you already have it and that it's already done, that doesn't mean that you believe it. And saying it often enough doesn't mean that you're going to. So there are two common ways to shift your state of being, and they're not the full story. One way is similar to what I just demonstrated to you. It's just using mindset techniques. So you might do meditations, you might say affirmations, you might use your imagination and visualize a reality you want to be in to get that feeling inside of you going. You might talk to yourself in a certain way. And all of these things are helpful techniques because you do want to work on your mindset, but they do not shift your state of being, especially not on their own, because the felt experience in your system will not be that. And it is not that easy for your mind to command to your body how it's supposed to feel. Because your body has such immense intelligence. It is going to react. Your body and your heart are going to react before your mind does. Now you have the opposite way, where you go body first. So that might be practices like breath work or yogic practices. And I love both. I teach both. I'm trained in both. There are great tools for somatic release, for regulating the nervous system, and even for having a quick state shift, right? If you do some breath work, if you're in an activated state, you can get into a grounded place a lot faster. That's a good tool. It's a good technique. But they are all still not the full story, because to get into the state and to get into the reality that you truly desire and embody that self-concept or that identity, it's a process of integration that needs to happen over time. It is a process of bringing to the surface the exact things that you are not even aware of. The things that you can't even see from your current state of being, which is why it's very helpful to have somebody who can reflect these things back to you. And I deeply believe and I teach a very holistic approach to shifting your state of being and manifesting your reality, because everything needs to be addressed in a way so that the shift in your state is complete and comprehensive. If you do practices to regulate your nervous system, but you don't do the deeper subconscious work, you're going to hit a limit. If you only work on your belief system, but you don't know how to incorporate your body into it, you're going to hit a limit. The most important thing is that you don't lie to yourself, because that's not a shift in your state. If you pretend that you are at a different stage than you are truly at, you will actually create a lot of resistance in your system and in your state. And what you resist is what persists. And so what you resist ends up manifesting the very thing that you don't want. Manifesting physically in your body, so that means it's going to become your habitual internal state of being and manifesting externally in your reality. Now, I'm going to tell you just some of the components that are essential to shift your state of being. And these are all the foundational aspects that I use in my work, in my coaching containers with my clients. And I want to make it clear also that this is not about modalities. Just because you use modalities, even if it's the ones I'm going to tell you about, does not mean that you're going to get the same results. It does not mean that you will sustain an embodied shift in your state because, as I said, it's a process over time. And in my opinion and in my experience, it also requires external, so third-party support. So one big aspect is about working with the past, integrating the past, really processing and releasing the past, which is a process of healing. And it requires deeper emotional work and work with your subconscious. And some people say you don't have to heal to manifest, and that's true, you don't. But when you are even unconsciously holding on to your past, that's when certain beliefs will fester in your system and then therefore manifest externally. So do not neglect the importance of that. The second piece is your nervous system. And that's a big aspect of your state because your state is mostly felt and experienced. It's not thought. Thoughts can support the embodiment or the state that you're in, but a thought alone, as well as the repetition of a thought, won't shift your state. In fact, if your state is not already in alignment with the thought, it probably won't land, and it might even create more anxiety, more frustration, more resistance. The third aspect is to really work with your subconscious. This is such a beautiful process. When you go beneath the surface of that, it's incredible and the results are amazing. And that does not just mean imagining or meditating or doing hypnosis. The idea of shifting your state through your imagination comes from accessing the subconscious because your beliefs are primarily unconscious or subconscious. And so people think that they can just meditate themselves in and out of states. But the truth is that your subconscious lives in your body and it manifests through your nervous system and through your interactions with the world. The other part is taking action from your future self or from the version of yourself that you desire to be. This is a part that a lot of people neglect. And I have a whole video about quantum leaping, which goes in depth into this. But if you act from your current state of being, you will stay in your current state of being. You need to stretch yourself out of your comfort zone. So that might mean doing the very thing that you don't want to do, like going on the date that feels scary, sending a text that feels like you don't want to do it, but your future self would. It can mean you are starting that business that scares you. You are putting things out there. You are showing yourself, you are making an investment that feels really scary to you, but that you know your future self would do with ease because she wouldn't be bothered. So taking action from not your current state of being, but your future state of being or the state of being you wish to be in will bring you closer to that state. The most important thing is that you need to approach this holistically. It's not something where you can just do one technique and one meditation and then your state shifts. It's a process over time, and it also needs to be an intentional process. It can't be just random. Having an intentional process is going to make that state shift happen naturally, automatically, and sustainably, meaning it's going to last and it's going to become your natural, new normal state of being. Please let me know in the comments what your key takeaway is from this video, because this was a deep dive, and I will see you again in next week's video.